I'm Jane Peterson of the Human Systems Institute. I've been teaching and leading Constellation Work for over 20 years. In the last 3 years, I've been, with my husband, developing a small farm. And that's been a big transition from traveling and teaching Constellation Work to farming. In the process of starting this farm, we became students of permaculture. And I've been amazed how many useful things I found in permaculture that are helpful for constellation facilitators and just helpful for living life. So I wanted to share a couple of the principles of permaculture with you and give you a chance to use these tools too. Permaculture. People hear the word, and if they know anything about it, they think that it's a couple of hippies living off the grid someplace, growing their own food. And permaculture, of course, it does have to do with trees and animals and all the kinds of things that we think about with agriculture, but really, permaculture is a design methodology that is based in observation and understanding of nature. So permaculture allows us to see and work with the patterns in the complex systems that are our living planet. And that's such a useful way to approach life. So there are 3 different principles that I'd like to foreground for you today, and to explain how they can be useful to you if you facilitate constellations or just for living life. The first principle, and there are 12 to 15 depending on who you study with, the first principle is observe and interact. And what that means is take a look at the natural world around you. Take a look at the person in front of you. Allow yourself to see and be seen and interact with the person in front of you, or their system, or nature. Most of us don't realize how much of our time we actually spend inside of our own mind and inside of our own head. So permaculture is inviting us to focus outside and to see sometimes what's right under our nose. When we observe over periods of time and really open ourselves to receiving what the world is trying to show us, we come into a different relationship with whatever we're observing, whatever we're engaged with, that affects us in certain ways and also allows us to begin to see larger patterns, to perceive the whole, how things are working together, what elements are standing out if you watch over time. And we learn a lot about that by interacting. So it's not just observing, it's also sort of asking questions of the world by engaging with it. So if you're talking to a client or you're working with nature, try something. Ask a question. Really listen to the answer. Be present and allow yourself to be influenced by what you see and to let the world show itself to you. So observe and interact. That's the first principle. When we observe and interact, when we're really present and letting patterns reveal themselves to us, we are going to be affected by that. The second principle is accept feedback and self-regulation. Accept feedback and self-regulation. So when something happens, whether it's with a client, whether you're facilitating a constellation on the floor, whether it's something in your life, and it's maybe not what you expected, it might be something unexpected or different or something that you don't understand, there might be a request from the world to stop. Or it might be something that upsets you and you have to manage yourself. Whenever you observe and interact with a system or a human being or a plant, you will get feedback. That other entity is going to respond to you. You're in relationship, it's reciprocal. That response may require things of you. So part of the art of facilitating is being able to be adaptable, to accept feedback, to accept that you sometimes need to regulate yourself in order to be present for another, in order to continue to observe and interact. So this idea of accepting feedback, if your client frowns when you ask them a question or doesn't give you the answer that you were expecting, that is feedback, and it's inviting you to do something different. That's the self-regulation part. So that's a really helpful, I don't know, perhaps just a useful tool for life, is accept feedback and self-regulation. And the last permaculture principle I wanted to share today is the idea of obtaining a yield. So whether we're farming or we're working with other people or we're providing a service, we also need to be cared for in the exchange. So the farmer tends her field so that it will produce things for herself, for the wildlife, for others. But her yield is important too, because if the farmer isn't fed, she can't tend the field. The same thing's true for us as facilitators. If we don't obtain a yield, if we don't get something from the exchange, we can't continue. It's not sustainable. So being able to have a full exchange, as Bert Hellinger describes it, is really important for us, whatever endeavor we're involved in, whether that's farming or leading a constellation or just living life. We need to be aware that there needs to be a flow of giving and receiving, because that keeps us nourished and it keeps us able to engage with life. So I hope these 3 principles from permaculture have been helpful for you. I invite you to check out different sites on permaculture. We'll include one in this video that shares all 12 principles. And I wish you well and have a great day.